Advocating, the Chamber provides opportunities for members to make meaningful connections. Important economy, yours.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Comcast and Xfinity.com, offering Xfinity TV, Internet, home phone, and home security services. Information on all that Xfinity has to offer in the Westfield area is available online at Xfinity.com.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for Arts Beat, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England.
Community Radio
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
8:10 on the nose. I had to wait until 8:10.
I know. That's why I'm letting it trail.
Today is the 28th day of April, the 34th day of my apocalypse. Did my level just go down?
Yep.
Okay.
There was pen in here.
What?
Thanks. I'm learning from Jay that the levels you need to modulate a little bit better. You need to approach the mic properly, and that way it works better.
Okay, what are you talking about?
And now you're going to screw with me. Not today.
This is my apocalypse. It's the year 2020, Anno Domini.
And then Jay throws in a pot shot off mic.
Yeah, and off camera, too, because I set everything up for myself.
And now you've been photobombed.
Christ. This is the den, Ken's den.
The views expressed by the host during his monologue are those solely of his own, not those of Westfield State University. Our underwriters, those people on this bright, nice, sunny day, finally. Or JPEG Luca, who's trying to be a pest in the studio. And now, wow. Now he's in my booth. I hear you, brother.
You know what, Pete?
What's going on, Ken?
Last week I said I was doubting that I'd be going back to work on May the 4th.
Yes.
And by the way, May the 4th be with you.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking that Tal Duvall would be extending the stay-at-home order for non-essentials. Well, I know for sure that I'm not going back to work on May the 4th.
Why? What happened?
And May the 4th be with you, by the way. Why? Because I have no job to go back to.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, you heard me right. I don't have a job to go back to. It was determined that the operation would be bleeding for well over a year once we got started again, and it is not a process the owner wants to deal with. The Kung Flu killed my job of 24 years. And I work in an... It's not... What are you laughing about, you SOB? There's nothing funny about that.
Kung Flu.
You know, I work an older specialty trade. When America opens back up, I don't think there will be people looking to hire me.
That's true.
You know, I might have to, repair TVs and turntables in my dining room for a while. While I am lagging on that video feed. I don't know if I would do so well at the Clown or the King having a 19-year-old tell me how to salt fries. My shelf-stocking days for minimum rage are in my past.
That's true.
I have several daytime doctor office visits a month, as well as some freelance weekend work. How does a 50-year-old man find a job with flexible mother's hours that pays a decent wage?
This is tough.
I am screwed. I might have to relocate out to Vegas much earlier than I had expected to. It's not difficult for someone like me with my skill set to get technical work out there with all the shows and productions. But that's the last chance scenario because I plan on being here for my parental figure as they get older and they'll be needing me. That brings up another issue. I can't commute an hour or more each way for work because I'm the only one said parental figure has, and I need to be nearby.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to be able to leave what I'm doing if there is a problem.
Yeah.
Because I manage the office operations as well as working out in the field, I could do some office or reception work. But I think it would be difficult to convince some potential employer to hire the ugly flat slob with the lisp and messed up teeth to be on their front lines. And now I wish Bob was still on the line for this. And then the occasional IBS issues come up due to some of the medication I take.
And you're blaming me for the road trip.
That eliminates working as a cashier at a megamart. I'm not going to ask permission to try to make it to the John at some point in 15 minutes. I need to go now. I get a 1-minute notice when I am going to void. Why do you think we play long songs now and then when I'm on the air? Currently, I just get up and deal with it.
Yeah.
If I'm on a job site, I just stop and I'm just deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do that when you're scanning bananas.
Good point.
Man, am I screwed. So until I figure things out, I think I might be offering a few services such as flat panel and turntable repair and maybe video transferring once I get my head around how I will be doing it. And I think I'll be getting something out on social media about that. You know, some folks have seen my posts on social media of some of the work I do reconditioning vintage audio products.
You do good work. I've seen those. And I've heard them.
You know, I know that many folks are cleaning out their homes during this extended stay-at-home order. And they may have stumbled across an old stereo receiver or other audio or video product. If you don't have a use for it and you don't want to deal with it, I'll be glad to take them off your hands. Okay, I can't pay you anything for them, but I will try to keep them out of the landfill by reconditioning them and selling them online to recoup my efforts.
Basically get them to a good home.
Yeah. Remember that shop? I sold it on eBay. Do you remember that?
No.
There was one down by Price right 20 years ago. Is there a need to bring this back or a service like it? I'm open to selling stuff on eBay for folks for 50% of profit after shipping. If you have other ideas or suggestions, you can find me on social media or contact producer Pete here at Community Programming. He'll relay a message to me. And if none of that stuff works, I am really screwed. Mm-hmm. The Chinese virus did not just shut me down for a few weeks or a month or two. It took away my job of 24 years and my financial stability. Most folks will be able to go back to work at jobs that are waiting for them. Not me. So, next time you want to bitch about how some items are roped off at Walmart during this pandemic, remember this monologue. You may not have been able to get your television or your pants or your socks, and I could care less right now. Your little inconveniences are nothing in comparison to other real unintended consequences of this. That felt good. Let's pay our bills. We'll be back right after this.
to my car. I went round there. Still don't believe it. He was just leaving. Oh, there must be some misunderstanding. There must be some kind of mistake. There must be some misunderstanding. Yes, there must be some kind of mistake. There must be misunderstanding. There must be misunderstanding. Yes, there must be misunderstanding. Yes, there must be.
Underwriting is brought to you by Boise Cascade Distribution, providing products and services needed for building material dealers, home improvement centers, and industrial customers. They offer everything from engineered wood and plywood to Drex decking and railing, James Hardy siding, and Advantech subfloor. Located at 33 Fowler Street Extension in Westfield and on the web at bc.com, they are committed to providing quality products, great service, convenience, and value.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Comcast and Xfinity.com, offering Xfinity TV, Internet, home phone, and home security services. Information on all that Xfinity has to offer in the Westfield area is available online at Xfinity.com.
Listen to me, Michael Buster McMahon, Mondays 8 to 10 a.m. to learn the stories behind your favorite songs. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you.
Community Radio 89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Wait for it. Wait for it. I can only do as much as I can do.
8:23 on the nose.
There you go.
Do I have anyone on the line?
No.
So Den Mother hasn't called in.
No. Which is probably not a bad thing today since we have stacked guests on the phones.
Yeah, that's not for another 12 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So, okay.
Why don't you bring Jay back in?
All right, no, you know what?
He's out there goofing off.
I planned ahead for something. Take a look at this. All right, camera one.
I'll drop me. Whoops. What the hell? Oh, everything's just really annoying today.
All right. I thought I had zoomed in close enough. All right, so this is a faucet.
Yeah.
All right? It's a smart faucet. Okay? And it is by a company called Grow, and it's a Grow Blue Chilled and Sparkling 2.0. All right? At the push of a button, you can get either regular tap water or filtered drinking water.
Oh,
Okay?
Hi, Den Mother.
Good morning. I'm here, but I'm trying to feed cats. Can you hear them screaming at me?
No, we're okay with that. So now, Kenny, Jay's messing with all your cameras, so all your camera shots are pretty much shot to crap.
Uh-oh.
I'll deal with them at the next break.
I heard that already because I had the show on earlier.
I won't be using one again though. That's the only time I needed it. So I'm done.
Oh, you know what it is? Oh, I know what the problem is. I had one patched in for the feed from Wirecast, so that's the problem. Yeah.
All right, so I'm done with one. And
Jay's gonna make me.
And you can come back.
Lose my mind today. Why don't you put it back on one again?
I don't need to go back on one anymore.
Well, I couldn't show it the first time.
Oh, okay. There's a faucet, okay? It's a smart faucet.
Yes.
By Grow.
Okay.
All right. So, at the touch of a button, you can either get regular tap water or filtered drinking water. It eliminates the need for plastic water bottles. That's the intent of it. Okay?
Yeah.
I want to do my part for the environment too, but I think I'm going to stick with plastic bottles.
Why is that?
Because the thing is $3,000.
Oof.
Oh my God.
$3,000 for a faucet that you can switch between regular tap and filtered water.
Don't they have just something
Wow.
that screws on the end of the faucet that does the same thing for
At
like
the end of the faucet,
Yeah,
no.
they do.
for $50? Yeah, there is.
There's a filter. Yeah.
Oh
there
yeah,
is a filter.
those. But it's. I bet you that this has a reverse osmosis unit underneath. It has to for that type of money.
Yeah, for $3,000, I'm not paying $3,000
But
for that.
$3,000 just so I can refill one plastic bottle? No, I'm not going to do it.
Wow.
You no longer have the dinero, my friend.
Not gonna. Even if I did, no way, eh? Take off.
Okay, you hoser.
All right, good. You saw what I was doing there.
I did, yeah.
Good for you. So Kathy, you heard the monologue.
I did hear your monologue. You know what? I do have an old stereo upstairs. It still works. I don't know. I think the kids took the speakers.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's one of those. Do you remember, like about 15 years ago, everybody was buying those black stereos, CD units.
Right.
That's what it is.
Oh, those are cool.
Still,
They're
still
cool. They're
sitting up-
cool. They're not vintage, but they're maybe a market for something like that.
They're serviceable.
Take me a picture of it and send it to me.
I have no need of it. It's been sitting up in my daughter's room since she left for college, and that was back in 2001.
Yeah. So I
So it's
figured
something like that.
I figured doing that monologue today would be a perfect ideal thing for Bob to therapize me on. But
And he's not going to do that.
but Bob's not here and he's not online to therapize me.
Wow. You are in big trouble.
Out of
Well, just
out
think-
of any
just think-
time I need it, right?
Well, yeah, but you'll save $50.
Check
yeah,
was,
since
check
things
was
are getting bad, Bob's prices could have gone up.
check was just gonna bounce anyway. I don't care.
Uh-oh.
I have no problem. I have several checking accounts, and the check that Bob would get would be rubber. And he's afraid to go to the bank, so I'll give him a rubber check every week for like the next 4 months, and then he finally gets to bring them over to the bank, and none of them are good. How about that?
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Okay.
Peter, does he owe you any money?
No.
Good thing. Good thing.
But after all the work he did this weekend, if you look behind me on all this fine wiring job, the Corinthian
see him.
leather.
All right, let's figure out the hours involved with that. All right,
Oh,
there's
Lord.
4, 5, 6, 12, 13, let's say 13, 14 hours. What is 14 times 75?
Lots of money.
Wow.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, that's what you owe me for that. That's what I would have gotten if I was working out in the field. Yeah, that's why I can't flip burgers. I don't even think I can do Geek Squad. I don't think Geek Squad can afford me.
Do they? I didn't know they still even did that.
Yeah. So yeah, no Bob to therapize me on all this, and it's the one day out of the entire year that old Kenny here may actually need it, right?
Yeah.
Shame on him.
Well-
Shame on the Klung flu. Shame on the world.
It's the Wuhan flu.
Shame on all you dirty, filthy people who sneeze into the air and pick your nose and then touch the doorknobs. My God.
If we name this like we named other things like Lyme disease, I saw Bill Maher did a monologue.
Oh yeah,
about this.
yeah.
This would be the Wuhan flu.
Mm-hmm.
This is where it came from.
Yeah.
Ebola River,
Right. Yep.
West
I saw
Nile.
that.
Spanish
Egypt.
Spanish flu.
Yeah.
Yep. Their
This is
name
the
from where
first
they
time.
come from.
Flu, though, did not come from Spain, so that's a misnomer. It did not come from there. That's just.
So what should it have been called then?
Actually, they're not sure where it came from. They think that politically it was called the Spanish flu because, drum roll here, Spain was not in the war at the time, and other countries had the flu, but because of the war, they were trying to keep the numbers of the actual epidemic down. So Spain was the only one that was saying, yes, we have it.
Actually,
I don't know. There was an outburst in Kansas, actually, on one of the Army bases.
our other phone line might have the answer to that. Joe, why was it called the Spanish flu?
Good morning.
We'll bring you in early because I saw you click in.
We'll bring Joe Rouse in early. The head of the Westfield Health Department. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning.
Morning, Joe.
I can't answer that question. Good thing I know it because you really got me blindsided there. So.
Sorry. Well, you know what? We were talking about how this is every other epidemic type thing has been named after the region in which it initiated. And the PC crowd, and I hate throwing politics in this, but the PC crowd saying, well, you can't call it the Wuhan flu because that's racist. And I'm like, no. The people of Old Lyme don't care that they call it Lyme disease.
Right? Well, you would think that with this one, 100 years ago, Spanish flu was because it originated in Spain. So that's not true. What it really means is that, remember, we were in a war at the time. And in that war, the Spaniards, or the country of Spain, was kind of like, what do they say, neutral, or not really taking sides in the whole thing.
Yep.
With all of the other countries that were involved with the war, there was essentially not necessarily a gag order, but they weren't allowed to report on certain things. So the only ones that had the liberty to report on the influenza of the day were the journalists from Spain. So all of that news information generated initially out of the journalists from Spain. Therefore, they called it the Spanish flu.
Okay,
Kathy confirmed.
Isn't that what I just told you?
Yes, you did. That means I have it confirmed from a credible source. So we're gonna go with that story because it's been confirmed by two sources.
So it's
Wait.
It's the one exception, though.
What?
Am I not credible?
Yes, but you have to check your sources. See, you have to have more than one source before you put it all over the internet, right, Joe?
I do.
Yeah, I'm just.
Without if I did not believe it.
I'm just glad that my story matched up with Kathy.
But it is.
No,
I'll
hey,
give
the
it to you.
truth is the truth.
It's one exception. All right. Ebola still came from Ebola. I mean, I could list off more of them if I had woken up a little earlier today.
I'd love to run the Bill Maher. If you look on the internet on his channel for his show, there's a couple of swears in it, so I can't run it on air here. But it in the same show where he smashes Trump for his response time or lack thereof, he also blasts the other side of the house on their call, saying that you have to say it's just COVID instead of the Wuhan flu. I don't know. It's the whole fact that, you know, what you're doing on the public health side, doing straight facts and things like that, is getting muddied by all the other, you know, I just call it noise now. I don't even bother with it anymore.
Yeah, it's there's a pandemic of misinformation going around too, not just the virus.
Yay! I love it.
So we know that we have to keep at this pace right now, Joe. We hear, okay, you know, we've flattened out a little bit, but we still have a ways to go, I would say.
You would be right.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, every day we look at, depending on what our numbers are, and numbers throughout the state, not just Westfield, but, you know, you try and extrapolate with these new models every day and try and figure out when we're going to be on that decline, how steep that decline is. And there's there's different schools of thought on that. So common right now is what we're looking at is it took us 6 weeks to get to surge or to peak. It would make sense that it would take that long again until we're down to a point where people could be comfortable in resuming their normal activities. So that remains to be seen whether that's true, because, you know, what you might also see, another model I saw yesterday was, and this actually made sense too, is that the less people who you have infected, the less new cases that you have coming in. So as you're on the way down, it's like the opposite of on the way up, where you start off with a few cases, and then the more and more people that get it, the more and more people that get it. And that gets you up to where you're at capacity. So on the way down, we might see a better, sharper decline just because, again, less people getting sick, less people transmitting, less people symptomatic. And so, instead of 6 weeks, maybe it'll be 3, or maybe it'll be 4. But that's the model du jour right now, and that could all quickly change in 2 days. So we'll just keep track of it.
And as it stands right now, then using that model, that puts us into June.
Yeah, and I'm going
which is what a few reports were saying a few weeks ago. This is likely in Western Mass to go into June.
Well, Kenny, the thing is that people are sick of it, okay? And the media is trying to get away from the mundane, same old stories. That's their job, right? They have to sell time, and they have to sell ads.
And Joe, to be honest with you, I'm tired of reporting on it, but I have to.
You have to. You definitely have to. We have to stay diligent because, this has the potential to do a horrible rebound that's going to be even worse than what we originally saw. Now, that can be prevented, certainly. But if you start now just trying to will this away, that's not going to work. Science doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to throw you a hard ball with this one, but, I'm reading so many different things on social media. Did Westfield tell Walmart how to mark off their store?
Yeah, so what happened was a lot of people think this went through the mayor's office, but it didn't. It went through the health department. And what happened was we were just getting an enormous amount of complaints from customers or employees that were at Walmart, seeing it being sort of a place of congregation and socializing, because really nobody had anything else to do. So
bring the family over to Wally.
Yeah, so unfortunately, that was investigated and substantiated, and so it wasn't just based off of rumor or reports that we got from people. We actually sent our inspectors in to observe what the conditions were. And not only was there that element going on, there was also a huge lack of social distancing. There were people just not observing the general precautions. So we wound up giving them an order that said, as did Chicopee, you have to cordon off all of the non-essential areas. And we didn't define to them what that meant. We just left that up to them. And I think they probably went based on the model that Chicopee used. So it was no more non-essential sales, and you have to limit your occupancy to 200 people. Now, 200 people for Walmart in that size of a store is way, way less than the new guidelines, which is 40% of your maximum.
Yeah, 200. That must be 5% of the FCO of that building.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So for them to get down to 200 people, it's a real challenge for them to keep that other many people outside. So that's what we had to do, and we're ready to work with them because they have been relatively good lately, to see if we could maybe get them to agree to some additional conditions, and therefore we could bump up their occupancy. Does that answer your question?
All right.
Actually it does.
We got it right from the horse's mouth then.
Well, and it's also
Right.
dispelling all the rumors and frankly some of the BS out there.
Yeah, and also one other thing, because I know people were saying they were upset about Walmart was back and forth with the non-essential sales. And what happened was we had issued them that order because of the activity we observed going on there, and that we needed to really curtail the number of people that were in there congregating. Then the state came out with the new rule for grocery stores that you could only have 40% of your max occupancy as your load of people. Walmart then determined that they were a grocery store. And so they removed all of the cordoned off areas for the non-essentials, and they just went by the rule of, well, we'll have 40% of our max occupancy in here. and it doesn't work that way. So they actually went on for a few days being able to sell non-essentials before we circled back around and said, Walmart's not a grocery store, no more than they are a shoe store or a clothing store or a sporting goods store. I mean, you can't just decide what you are based on what you sell. There's a definition. So then we had to say to them, okay, we never rescinded that original order, and you have to go back to that. So that's what they did.
Gotcha. All right, you heard it here officially here on Ken's Den. So status quo pretty much as the city is going forward as it has the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned it last time, and even the last few weeks, we haven't necessarily been seeing less cases, but we've been seeing less cases in the general public. So we've had some trouble with some local congregate living facilities, assisted living, nursing homes. That makes our numbers look a little bit higher than they are actually, and for people, single family homes are spread out throughout the city. So, but we're still able to investigate all of those every day. Quarantine the contacts, and so it's not quite status quo. I still feel like a one-armed paper hanger, stockbroker, air traffic controller all at the same time.
Hey, Joe?
Yeah.
Are assisted livings and like apartment blocks and things like that, are those going to be problem spots going forward? Are those going to be the biggest problem spots?
Well, I think that from the first one that we had, it's kind of lesson learned about what the problem was there. So moving forward, we're hoping that's not going to be true, because we now have the assistance through a modification of a state order so that we can use the National Guard to do testing in facilities if we see a cluster.
Okay.
So hopefully it won't get to the extent where we're going to have these huge numbers in other nursing homes. I mean, we do have another one now where there's a cluster, and we're working on it. But yeah, I mean, it's hit or miss really with that, Pete. We're trying everything that we can, especially with the employees. I mean, you got to remember, a lot of these nursing homes, these people don't leave there. So the only way they contract it is by it being brought in.
Right.
And not brought in by necessarily family, but brought in and maybe spread around by, could even be asymptomatic employees.
Well, I think that's the biggest problem now. So many people are contracting and are asymptomatic, and they don't know any better because they're just and then they're they're not practicing procedures because they don't think they have anything, and that's how it spreads easily.
Mm-hmm.
And
yep.
I
so
think,
like they said that.
And I think with the elderly population, it doesn't take a lot of viral load to get them sick.
Correct. Yeah, so that was the problem in the first case, is that you have to really now take extra precautions with those highly susceptible populations. So that's the direction that the facilities are given now, and other things that they've already been doing, like just keeping out people. I mean, you have to, because that really, once somebody gets it in one of those places, it spreads like wildfire.
So I got about another minute or so for you, Joe. This is usually the time when you're in the studio that I let you get up on your soapbox. So here's your opportunity for Tuesday morning to do your plead to the folks of Westfield.
Okay, so there's a couple things, and a lot of questions about masks. So I'll just cover that real quick. So what you got to understand is, and people are saying now, why doesn't Westfield have a policy where everybody needs to wear masks going out in public?
Mm-hmm.
So what I would say to that is, even though other cities and towns have done that, I'm not quite there yet, because there's more information that needs to get out to people before we adopt that as a policy. It's not the be-all to end-all.
Mm-hmm.
Wearing a cloth mask is not the thing that's going to prevent you from getting coronavirus. So it's really the cloth masks especially can be effective for preventing the spread from asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic people. Someone who's symptomatic with COVID-19, those cloth masks are really not doing any good.
Mm-hmm.
So, but fortunately, there's other ways to protect. Like if someone's symptomatic, even a surgical mask will do better. But the cloth masks right now, whereas, like I keep saying, they don't hurt, but it's not the be-all to end-all. And when you get people that put a mask on and think that they're then protected, that false sense of security is dangerous. And we need to make sure that people understand this mask is not preventing you from contracting the virus. This mask is intended to prevent you from spreading it. And again, if you're symptomatic, that's probably not going to even work anyway. The number one thing that people need to maintain, social distancing, is the thing that has been found to be the most effective. Again, the masks can't hurt. It's nice. People like them. But don't think that, that's the thing that's going to keep you from getting it. So we got to get more information out like that to people. It's sound advice to wear it. Even the CDC will recommend it for people to protect the spread. But still, we're back to the same old thing. Social distancing, wash your hands, cough or sneeze into your elbow, don't touch your face, and stay home until we get this whole thing on the big downside, on the steep slope. That's about it. That's all I got.
All right. Great information with the masks as well. Because one week you hear they don't do anything, another week you hear, okay, well, you need to have one.
Yeah, well,
go ahead.
The bottom line with that is that there's just not enough information out there scientifically to weigh in on it. So in the meantime, you just say, let's pretend like they're helpful, certainly, but don't rely on that. Don't anybody think that just because you're at the grocery store with a cloth mask on that you're protected. You still have eyes that are exposed, touch surfaces, and everything else.
Excellent. Joe Rouse, I want to thank you for giving us a call this morning.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry I couldn't be there, but maybe next time.
All right. I can arrange it. We have ways of making things happen.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right. I'll be cutting this out of the broadcast and sharing it on social media to get your message out.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, Joe.
Stay healthy, my friends.
Thanks.
See ya.
All right. And I think I heard something else ringing over in the control room, Pete. Okay. All right. Is my den mother still with me?
I am here.
All right. So that was some pretty good information we got from Joe.
Yes, it was. It was very good. He always has it right on the money. I appreciate you having him in.
Excellent. How are we, Pete? Okay. I heard you through the wall, but not through the mic.
Sorry, we're good.
All right.
I turned my mic down to talk to the person on the phone, and then I got to turn it back up.
All right. So on the phone now, our weekly chat, Mayor of Westfield, Don Humison. Good morning, Don.
Good morning, Don.
Good morning.
All right. First off, but before we even get into anything city and COVID, two things I have for you: condolences on your uncle, and also,
thank you.
And also, how are you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling fine. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I had a chance to go over to Bay State Medical Center ER last week and go through the ER process to get checked out for COVID myself because I was feeling short of breath. And I was talking to Mike Knappich, and he's like, one of the doctors says that could be a symptom. You ought to get checked out. I said, well, I don't want to get, I don't want to go through all that problem. I don't have any other symptoms. He's like, well, you should come over anyway. So I did. He set it up for me, and I got in. And then they checked me out, and they said, well, that's good, but you still have shortness of breath. So I stayed in Bay State for a couple of days before I came home. And I got to watch from the perspective of a patient what a hospital goes through during, a major, I guess, pandemic. It was really fascinating. So because I was deemed after the test not to have COVID, they put me in a part of the hospital where all the non-COVID patients were. So even though my nurses and doctors and stuff still wore masks and gloves and stuff like that, they didn't have the full PPE. They weren't wearing the gowns and the shield and stuff like that. It was really fascinating to watch.
So what was? Tell me where your mind was at when you were going through this, because I know in my mind I'd be saying, well, geez, if I'm walking in here without COVID, am I going to get it now because I'm here?
Well, that's exactly what I thought too. Because again, it's just what Joe said, right? It's not the people that have it that you worry about. It's the asymptomatic folks who don't have it, or who have it and don't have any signs of it. So even though I felt like everybody was taking the proper precautions, you still see a ton of people. Everybody who brings in, like, they bring their food in, they come in and bring their medications in or whatever. You see a lot of people during the day. And they're not necessarily keeping the distance. They're getting right up close to you, take your blood pressure and things like that. So I haven't had a chance to talk to Joe yet, but I always love listening to him because he's very reassuring. He's also really knowledgeable. But in conversations we've had in the past, I just know that, after being at Bay State for a while, I should just lay low and not, get back out there in the community in case I was exposed to something. So the only people that are in danger right now are Janice and Quinn, as I'm here at the house.
So that
most of the meetings I could do over the phone.
That experience then definitely gave you a completely different perspective on all this.
Yeah, and I'm even more impressed because I tell you what, the nurses, mainly the people I dealt with were nurses. I didn't have a lot of doctors and folks like that or specialists or anything like that, but they are working. They're working round the clock through really adverse conditions. Everything's moved around. They're not in their usual places, and so from the ER to the floors, they're not. Things aren't routine. Everything is very emergency focused, and yet they're still doing an amazing job. And try to be a good patient, try to be funny, try to be nice, try to give them something. They don't go, oh God, I got to feel like guy in room 234 right now. And it was fun because I got a chance to. I met a couple of Westfield nurses who were from Westfield, a couple of people that from Southwick, and then a lot of other people from all over the Pioneer Valley, and they're just really good. I asked everybody I met how long they'd been nursing, how long they'd worked at Bay State, and what kind of things they did, and I was just really impressed with the dedication of the folks that work there.
Yeah, when my father went into Bay State a few months ago, I was super impressed because I was actually there several times for several hours, and I saw everything going on, and I had no issue leaving there, knowing that he was getting superb care.
Right.
All right.
Right, it's really impressive too. I mean, you watch all the medical shows on TV, and you watch stuff in real life.
Yeah.
See what the difference is.
Yeah. So how is City Hall doing now that it's been almost vacant for almost a month now?
Well, it still goes on. Most of what we're doing now is being done over the phone. Our meetings are all where we normally have a conference. We now have it either through Zoom or through, just a phone-in conference call. And, we're still doing things. Community development just released a round of block grants to businesses, small businesses in Westfield, to help them get through this. I don't know what to call it. This downturn in our economy, this drastic downturn,
right?
To help keep them alive for a couple more months, because that's what we want. We want these small businesses to survive.
Yeah, and you did mention there that the small businesses, people should be getting owners of small businesses. I believe should be getting in contact with Pete Miller because I believe there's some funding from the CARE Act that goes to local businesses.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that round has passed or not, but do call the community development office if you've got any questions. You can get the information off of our website, too, which is cityofwestfield.org. Cityofwestfield.org has the information on it, too. But you can also call the office as well.
And I think the realization has finally hit us that the schools are just not opening up at all now this year.
Yeah, that decision was made last week. The governor kind of came out with it, but we sort of said, I think I said to you last week on the show that as Boston goes, so goes probably the rest of the state. And Mayor Walsh said he didn't think that people were going to go back to school for the rest of the year.
How often are you hearing from Zaporowski?
Oh, all the time. We actually, the superintendent's in on. There's a group of us that talk like almost every day through through conference calls, so it's really good. And we check in, like we go around the table with Jim Wiggs, we go around the table with Joe Rouse, or Dan Malvetta, with Stefan. We go with Chris Willenberg, the airport manager, and folks at DPW, the Phillips shop. So we're trying to stay on top of all the different functions of city government. You know who I'm meeting a lot with now is the department heads about the city budget.
Mm-hmm.
So Chris Caputo, our city auditor, Matt Barnes, the treasurer, we're always talking about, sadly, unfortunately, the condition of our receipts and their returns. And I don't blame people right now. They're not paying their taxes because they're out of work.
Yeah, now May is budget time with the council, isn't it?
It is. So
Oh.
we're going to get ready to bring that to the council soon. And we've already given them the heads up. I've talked to, obviously, Councilor Figge and Councilor Bean, who's our president, and said, hey, look, you obviously know this from what you read in the papers, but it is definitely impacting us locally. State aid is down. Well, just think about it. Think about meals tax is down. Gasoline tax is down.
Mm-hmm.
Excise tax is down. What else? Hotel motel tax is down.
Mm-hmm.
It remains to be seen that our property tax will be down. I guess a lot of the property tax is paid, through your banks and escrow, but
Right.
it definitely will be lower than usual. And of course, state aid is down.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, just a quick programming note
Here is down.
for both of you.
Okay.
Zap will be on with Harry Rock tomorrow. Just to let you guys know, Zap's on for the whole show with Harry Rock, so he'll be covering, I guess, in depth of what's going on with the schools.
Yeah, and of course we're trying to figure out what do we do with this year's seniors and how do we celebrate that and do something so that their year just didn't end. How do we recognize the seniors without violating protocol, without getting a bunch of people together? What can we do to celebrate them? There's a lot of ideas from other communities as well. And then I'm also in conversations with like Mayor View in Chicopee or the mayors of the other communities around here to see what they're doing, like Bill Sabelli over in Agawam, for example, or Mayor Morris over in Holyoke, or obviously Bob Sarno, because we want to keep in touch with each other about what the local mayors are, what decisions they're making.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mayor, you have the folks here at Community Programming if you need a call on us to make anything happen or work with a solution to graduation.
Good. And I continue to applaud you because there's a core group of people in the city that listen to your show and are well informed because of it. I wish my biggest frustration as mayor has been that it's so hard to get information out to people because nobody listens to just one source. They all have
Mm-hmm.
each of the sources. People don't hear the news.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to drive people to the website, or we try to drive people to the newspapers, or the television news, or Channel 15, but it's difficult. I will tell you, I think tomorrow morning, I think it's at 11. We're doing Hey, Pete, is it 11 o'clock we're doing the non-deal informational session?
Let me look on my calendar real quick. I believe you are correct, though. Hold on one sec.
Yeah, so we've gotten together.
Yeah, 11 o'clock.
All right, good. And this time, in the past couple of weeks, I've actually been in the chamber by myself. This time I'm just going to call in like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll go around the table with all these departments that I just talked about,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll get a chance to listen in on their updates. So you'll hear from the police department, the fire department, the Westfield State College, and the Air Guard. You'll hear everybody kind of weigh in on what's going on. Tina Gorman will talk about what the folks are doing at the Council on Aging. Bill Parks or Bo Sullivan will talk about what is happening at the Boys and Girls Club. So you'll hear a complete sort of update on what Westville is doing with all the different segments of our community during COVID-19. It's pretty impressive.
And as usual, once the recording has been uploaded to usually in this case YouTube, I get that link out to various places on social media so that information can go out.
Good. Yeah, and it's also available at the website again, if I'm not mistaken, so people can actually listen to it and hear for themselves what their departments are doing.
Kathy, anything for Mayor Humison before I ask him for his dad joke of the week?
Oh dear, do we have to have the dad joke?
Yes.
I spent a lot of time down in third grade. I think I've heard most of these.
It's in my contract. I don't do the show. If I don't do
No,
the contract.
I think you pretty well covered it. I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're healthy. I loved the pictures from the hospital. Your garb was
I had a
impressive as
sweet
always.
jump. Lovely. Hey, Kathy, I liked watching your show as well. It was nice to see you back on the stage at Westfield Theater Group, and I liked having you tell the story.
It was something Ken thought we should do, and we have a good time doing it, so I hope you enjoy it. But no, I think you've covered a lot. Thank you, Don, for doing this. The city needs it, and the city appreciates it. Thank you.
Well, you got a chance to hear people like Joe Rouse before me, and there are a lot of great professionals who work hard for the city who you'll never really hear about them. You might read about them in the paper infrequently, but they're doing their jobs every day, and they're doing a great job, and I'm very impressed to be with them, and I thank them for their service.
All right. And because humor is, in fact, the best medicine, what do you have for us this week?
Just a simple joke. Why don't sharks eat clowns?
Why don't sharks eat clowns?
Because clowns taste funny.
I can't buzz the boss. I have to let that one go. Can't do it. Not gonna happen. Mayor Humison, thanks for giving us another call this week.
Have a great week, guys. Take care of yourselves.
All right, stay safe. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, Pete, take me away.
Burn down the store, take what you want and more. Shop until you drop, voodoo consumer never stop. Load up on supplies, no sale, no compromise. Gun crazy down the mall, voodoo consumer take it all. Eat this, drink this, try this, charge it, it's fabulous. Step right up and take it, it's fabulous. If you can't afford it, fake it. Be deviously dangerous, ridiculously cool. Let's make it fabulous. 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 Drive me to the bank, kneel down and give me thanks. Grab your credit card, voodoo consumer, kiss me hard. Eat this, drink this, try this, charge it, it's fabulous. Step right up and take it, it's fabulous. If you can't afford it, fake it. Be deviously dangerous, ridiculously cool. Let's make it fabulous. Too late, voodoo consumer terminate. Eat this, drink this, try this, buy this, wear this, fly this, play this, charge it, it's fabulous. Step right up and take it, it's fabulous. If you can't afford it, fake it. Be deviously dangerous, ridiculously marvelous, meticulously treacherous, disarduously cruel. Just make it fabulous. 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 Fabulous.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Dental. Comprehensive dentistry at 14 convenient locations in Springfield, Chicopee, Longmeadow, West Springfield, Belchertown, East Longmeadow, Ludlow, Northampton, Greenfield, and Wilbraham, as well as 29 Broad Street in Westfield. Bay State Dental makes it a priority to help you achieve and maintain the healthy smile you deserve. On the web at baystatedental.com. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Noble Hospital, a brand new name for a Westfield institution which is improving the health of our community every day with quality and compassion. Noble Hospital and Bay State Health, better together.
Join me, Tina Gorman, each week from 6 to 8 a.m. for Wake Up Wednesday, when my guests and I discuss health, wellness, and lifestyle reimagined.
Community Radio 89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
I'm talking about Ken Starsky's Wiki program. Kathy Palmer too. The Dan Marvel for you. Discussions of logo and happenings too. You got the Ken Starsky Weekly program with Kathy Palmer too.
And I just missed 907 and a half
Close
because
enough.
because I had to play it.
Yes, you did.
I had to play that.
What's wrong with that?
So
Much appreciated.
So Kathy, Pete and I put a lot of hours in down here this past weekend.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you didn't call me for advice?
Well, after we tore everything apart before we rebuilt it, I was thinking about calling you down here just to figure out what to do with all the cabling on the floor.
Sure, because I would have been so helpful. Yep. Now, exactly for those people who didn't see it on social media, you were down in the studio. What were you trying to do?
We had to integrate some new equipment and I've realized over the past couple of months that we needed to expand because all the flexibility and all the stuff that we need to pull off here. So I went ahead and bought some equipment that added to the capabilities of the place. And so this was a good time just to shut it down for the weekend and just rip it all apart and start from scratch.
That's an ambitious thing to do.
And come Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, I couldn't get out of my recliner.
Yeah,
I bet.
Kenny was a machine. Let's be honest now. He was a machine.
You would think that someone for my size would not have been as spry or as active or busy as what you saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just nonstop, no break, no lunch, no nothing. Just
I did offer lunch.
Yeah. Pete did offer lunch.
I did offer lunch, and you refused, so I was okay with that.
Well, two things. One, you eat lunch, then you're going to want to relax and digest and let it settle down. And I didn't want to lose that time. And secondly, we've been on plenty of road trips. Did you actually want to feed me and then have me in there an hour later farting all over the place?
We could open windows here, though.
Yeah, good point.
I tried to save you from that.
Just saying, we could open windows.
Yeah.
So what time did you start on Saturday?
10.
Yeah.
Till what time?
About 4.
4 or 5, yeah.
4 or
Both
5.
days,
Yeah.
10 to 4 or 5. It was full days. And then I worked out some bugs yesterday with Michael Buster McMahon, and I worked out some bugs today with Bob Plass. Now I think we're settled in. We're pretty good now.
We might have a bug with my level coming off of this thing.
Oh, go ahead, try it. I think you'll be fine. You gonna play something? Or?
89.5 WSKB.
Fine.
All right, that's a pretty good level.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, you see that, Kathy? I can do that all the way over where I'm sitting. I can just push a button, and I can make somebody who's delivering Domino's at your place. You better go get that door.
There's somebody at my door. Wait.
It's Bob Plass.
Fantastic.
It's Bob Plass looking for a $50 check.
Could be. Could be. You never know.
All right, so what I have coming up this half of the program, I'm not going to go all the way to the top of the hour. And I was lazy, and I didn't figure out what I wanted to do. I didn't find a guest to have call in or show up. So once we hit the half hour, actually about 9:24, I'm going to be wrapping it up. And we're going to be playing the latest two cat tales that were released on YouTube over the past couple weeks, which means, wait for it, I have another cat tales I will be releasing today or tomorrow. So we'll have a new one. And that means, Kathy, I thought I had enough in the can. We're going to have to record a few more next week, I think.
Okay.
All right.
I'll have to memorize a few.
All right. Or you can just cheat and read like you did last time.
Yeah, it's more fun for me to memorize, but it just takes time.
Yeah.
Takes time to learn them.
All right.
That's the problem.
So we'll plan on something next week for recording at least 2, if not 3 of those, depending on the length. I don't want to drop the ball on those. I don't want to get people addicted to it, and then 1 week give them nothing. I feel like a heel doing that.
The 22 people watching them.
It's 22 people.
When one of them happens to be the mayor, you're in good shape.
And that 22 people is just the people who tune in live. I'm looking at the count on the video views, and people are watching those.
Yeah, there's been comments on them too. I've seen that. People are liking that. It's a nice
Mm-hmm.
little series.
So what?
Yes, and actually, it's not all people I know.
What did you get for a temperature there, Pete?
It was 98.3.
98.3. Oh, it's a little warm for you.
Yes.
Are you coming down with the Wuhan?
I don't know. Do I get 2 weeks off?
The Kung flu? Are we going to do without you?
You never know. You never know.
I don't care if I'm on PC.
I think I've already had it. So.
Oh,
I'm still convinced I've already had it.
I think you did too.
I'm pretty sure I brought it to you when I was around all those people from China in January.
Correct.
When China was lying about it and didn't admit they had a problem, that was their peak, and they were sending people over to sell me robots at Consumer Electronics
Show. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I remember that.
I was deathly ill coming back from that. That was horrible.
I didn't get the full Monty, but I was pretty sick there for a week too, and I got pneumonia, so I guess I got the full Monty.
Yes, you did, and you're having breathing problems. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and Kathy, you were around me then.
I was 2 feet from you.
Yeah, and you still did not contract the Kung flu. And as I was
I
about
was
to say,
around both of you.
yeah, I don't care if I sound un-PC when I say Wuhan virus or Kung flu or the China virus. All right. There's a little bit of humor involved there, but this damn thing cost me my job, so I will say Kung flu.
Honestly, Ken, I don't think people really care. I think it's the media that whoops that up. As always, once something gets going, it spreads, and these stories spread that, oh, my God, we can't call it that. Oh, my God, it's not fair. Oh, my God, oh, my God. I don't think – I agree with you. I see nothing really wrong with it. If something came from Westfield, we'd be calling it the Westfield illness. So I don't know that people are really as astonished and offended as the media would like them to think. If it comes from there, call it that. What's the problem?
You have the West Nile virus. You would have the Westfield virus.
The Westfield virus. Yeah.
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 Instead of West Nile.
So
Do we need to get into a lab somewhere and create this, and then accidentally let it get out?
No.
Oh, don't.
Don't even suggest
Don't.
that. It's too soon.
Too
You
soon.
just got to tweet your finger.
Too soon.
Too soon. Too soon. Too soon.
I've got 9:16, and I'm gonna do my rap at 9:24.
Go ahead to the end.
Yeah, just go, yeah. I was gonna tell you I was gonna do that anyway.
Okay.
Oh, gosh.
I, as producer, give you my blessing.
As associate producer, I accept your blessing, and I'll have Kathy just give you the finger virtually.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
I've already done it about 5 times in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah. So I think I'm setting aside Thursday or Friday to go up to the shop and clean my desk out, and grab my computer and laptop, and I have a little pantry up there. I'll be grabbing that. Might grab some equipment and some tools and stuff. I don't think it'll be the last time I shoot up there, but I'm gonna start the process because we're keeping the actual business in place for a little while. We're not just trying to empty everything out in one day. We're gonna do it smart. It's not gonna hurt anyone by letting everything be there for a month or two. So I'm gonna be doing that proverbial walking out of the office with a box underneath my arm. I've yet to do that in my life.
Well, at least you're not being escorted out by security.
Got a point there.
I remember a story. My father was escorted out of a job before, and he couldn't believe it. They actually packed up his desk. He didn't pack it up. They packed his desk up and walked him out.
Wow.
And it was nothing of his own. They just decided he wasn't needed anymore, and that's how they got rid of him.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, at least I got a phone call saying, "Hey, look, I'm not going to keep your job for you."
Yeah, right, exactly.
24 years, and I'm told on the phone.
Wow. Well, at least it wasn't an email or a text.
Yeah, we didn't even depart. He's still going to be working. The company isn't gone. It's just that my position is gone because it just can't be supported anytime soon in the next year or so. And something big comes up, he'll subcontract me out. I'm taking a lot of diagnostic equipment and stuff to work out of my own home. So, it's not a violent goodbye, but it's still, a kick in the ass. Don't let the door hit you, after that, length of time.
Mm-hmm. And you're probably, sadly, not the only one in this boat, unfortunately.
No. I think the people who eventually will be able to go back to work in their own field are extremely lucky. I'm a very specialized older trade. I'm probably not going to be doing the same thing that I've been doing, but I might find something close. I might even open up a small retail front for this type of stuff. I'm not made of dough, but maybe I can find a desperate landlord somewhere who's been sitting on a storefront empty for 4 years, and he'll give it to me for 25% of profit or something. I'm going to have to think definitely outside of the box and I have plenty of time to do it. Plenty of time. After 24 years, I have a lot of time on my unemployment.
So, what is your plan for the immediate future? Just as you said, going on
For the
Craigslist and selling, or
for the immediate future, I'm just going to be working different things out in my head. I can survive on the unemployment for quite some time right now.
Okay.
Because because I'm smart. I've always planned ahead. So I'm okay for quite some time right now. I need to narrow down and land on something that I'm going to be happy with doing, because I don't like change. I don't want to bounce around from 2 to 3 different jobs over 2 or 3 years. So I need to come up with something and find something that will just work with me probably now for the next 13 years to get me up to retirement.
now, do you want to stay in the IT field, or you do want to branch out somewhere else?
It's not necessarily the IT field, but low voltage and electronics field. It's what I've done since 1987. It's what I know. It's where my value comes in. I need to try to keep something in that field somehow. Yeah. So I've got about 2 minutes left here. I did want to mention, normally we would have done Making the List on this day of the month. Pete and I are playing around with the idea of doing a virtual Making the List.
Yes.
So, Kathy,
and invite back some of the original cast members like Jim Keedy.
That would be good.
Yeah. So, Kathy, that's why I was asking you about your laptop the other week.
Yeah, I don't know. We had a meeting yesterday online, and I used my cell phone because the laptop, the last time I used it, it worked great for like 30 minutes, and then it crashed.
All right.
It was just too much for it. It just couldn't handle it. So I don't know what to tell you.
All right. We'll figure something out. But I'll cross that bridge when we actually do decide to do a virtual Making the List. And I'm going to make it completely separate from the Making the List that we normally do, because Hope right now has carried the torch. If we're going to have different people on here, I'm just going to make a different topic for this one time. And then when we finally get back together, we'll resume with Hope being the winner. But I think I'm probably going to come up with the topic of how the COVID is affecting your life. What song best describes it? And I think that's what we'll run with if we get enough people interested in doing a virtual version of that.
That'll work. That's a good idea. Yeah.
All right. I have everything timed out to the last minute, so I'm going to wrap up now. I don't know what I'm doing next week. As I've been saying the past month, with the times that we are in, I need to be very fluid with my scheduling here. Typically, I'm scheduling 2 months out because I'm OCD. I can't do that, and it's driving me nuts. I will admit it. I have at 9:28 2 of the cattails starting up, which means if I give Pete the notice right now to jump over to them after a brief mention of our underwriters, we should be all set. Kathy, thanks for joining me again, and stay safe.
All righty, you too. Talk to you later. Bye.
All right, thanks, Kat. All right, Pete, you have your orders, and I will catch you all next week.
Hello again, and welcome to Cat Tales. The story I'm going to tell you today is just a fun story called 9 to California. But before we start, I want to mention that between 1850 to 1890, the usual way to cross the country was by stagecoach. Sometimes we think that stagecoaches only took us across the West. That's not true. They were stopping right here in town because it was the main way to travel before the railroad came through. The incidents in the story are incidents that actually could have happened because traveling by stagecoach was a very long journey, and it was very dangerous for people on the stagecoach. It was not always pleasant. People were crowded in there. It was hot. It bumped. It jostled. It was not a comfortable ride at all. But you'll enjoy the story anyway. Pa sent us a letter, said, "Come to California, my dears. I'm mighty lonely without you." And in the letter, Pa left us a banknote, all the money that my pa had in the world. He'd worked in the gold fields for a whole year. What good is gold, my pa said, without the family? Mama sent a letter back. "We're coming." Then she brought a great big sack, and she started to fill it up with stuff. The neighbors said Mama was daft in the head. 21 days to California, they said. "Why would you take 5 young uns that far?" "I would," said Mama, and her sack got fatter and fatter with the things in it. "What's in that sack, Mama?" I asked. "Everything we're gonna need," said my Mama. "What are we gonna need?" I asked. "You wait and see," said my Mama. "You'll see." Now the stage driver stopped us and he shouted, "Lady, you gotta put that sack on top of the other bags. Won't fit inside that stage." "Yes, it will," said my Mama. "My girl Amanda's gonna sit on that sack." And quick as a wink, my Mama hoisted her sack on board, and I sat down on top of it. I felt mighty proud that I had such an important job, and Mama trusted me. We sat so close together on the stage that our knees were knocking each other, 3 forward and 3 back. There were 9 of us crowded in that stagecoach. Mr. Hooper, the banker, he wore a tall black hat. There was Cowboy Charlie with his lariat, and there was plump Miss Camellia, the teacher. She sniffed from a little perfume bottle tied around her neck. Then there was Mama, Baby Betsy, Billy, Joe, Ted, and me, Amanda, all stuffed on that coach, some of us sitting in the middle. The grown-ups looked at us with wide eyes, and their mouths were tight and not all that happy. I knew what they were thinking. Stuck on this stagecoach for 21 days with 5 young'uns. 'Tweren't going to be a good time. "Well, giddy up," cried the driver, and with a crack of the whip and a rumble and a heave and a shake, we were off. Trees and houses spun by. Dust flew in my eyes. My teeth rattled as we bounced and bumped. Along we went. Betsy baby screamed. "There, there," said Mama. "Now hush, hush." Baby Betsy threw up on Mr. Hooper's lap. "Oh, dearie me, Amanda, get me a rag out of the sack." And so I reached in and I brought that rag out. Mama mopped up the mess. Mr. Hooper held his hat high. Cowboy Charlie frowned over his lariat, and Miss Camellia kept breathing out of her perfume bottle. Brother Billy brought his whistle, and he began to toot on it. "Tweet, tweet, toot, toot," went the whistle. Mr. Hooper twirled his hat, and he told Mama, "My good woman, that whistle should have been left at home." Mama took the whistle, and she tucked it in the sack. "We'll see about that, Mr. Hooper," she said sweetly. And from the sack, Mama pulled out some things for us to look at, and we started laughing and giggling and rolling and punching each other. Mr. Hooper grumbled, My good woman, I hope you have something in that sack to keep these children quiet. We'd only just begun. Indeed I do. And my mother took out of the sack a lump of sugar, and she handed each one of us a lump of sugar. We stopped for a bit later on, and the stagecoach driver brought us all a plate with beans for everyone and a hunk of bread. Mama sat us all down and said, "Eat!" She said. "I hate beans," yelled my brother. "You're going to like them by the time we get to California," my mama said. "Now you eat up." "What's for dessert?" I asked my mama. "Prunes. You're going to get prunes." "Amanda, go get them out of the sack." Now back in the coach, my tummy felt funny with the beans and the prunes acting up. We giggled and we gurgled and we made faces and we made funny noises. Mr. Hooper glared at my mama and he said, "My good woman, can't you find something better for those children to do?" "Oh, yes, indeed," said my mama, and she turned to all of us and she said, "Children, plants." Well, yes, indeedy, Billy, Joe, Ted, and I, we mentioned all the plants that we could think of. We named all the animals, and we named all the birds, and we named all the presidents, and we named all the states, and we named all the oceans and the countries in the world. Mr. Hooper fanned himself with his hat. "My good woman, don't your children ever stop talking?" "Yes, they do," said Mama. "Let's sing." And so we sang every song we knew. We sang in English, we sang in French, and then we sang in Pig Latin. And baby Betsy just said, "Wah, wah, wah." Miss Camelia's face got red and she said, "Children should be seen and not heard." Night fell. "How much longer?" I asked Mama. "How much further?" "Only 20 more days," my mama said. "Now go to sleep." So we slept in the stage, jostling and bumping into each other. In the morning, I felt all scrambled. I looked out over the prairies and I saw endless seas of grass and wind. And the long hours moaned by. I was so bored I thought I would die. All day long, I waited for something to happen. And it did. The sky went black. Jagged streaks of lightning crashed overhead. The horses shrieked and the coach lurched and it was hit by a bolt. Icy rain came down in a sudden flood. Hailstones the size of turkey eggs pounded the coach. "We're sinking in the mud," said the driver. "Everybody out and push." So we all got out. And we heaved, and we pushed, and we pulled, and we heaved until it got unstuck and on its way. Back inside, we smelled like wet cats. Miss Camelia fluffed her hair and touched the perfume onto her curls. Mr. Hooper tried to reshape his hat. Cowboy Charlie wrung the water from his lariat. Everybody sighed, and baby Betsy cried. Mama nodded toward the sack. "Nothing warms a body like a hot piece of licorice," she said. I reached in and I brought out the licorice and we shared it with everyone. Mr. Hooper, Cowboy Charlie, and Miss Camelia all smiled a little bit. The days dragged on. We ate beans and we ate bread and we ate prunes. And we liked them no better than when we started. The long road never ended. I wished for something to happen. And it did. From far off, we could see these brown, shaggy beasts like a big brown stain on the prairie. "Buffalo!" yelled the driver. "Look out!" The shotgun rider turned and he began to fire over the heads of the buffalo. Thousands of buffalo were headed right toward our coach. We heard them roar. We smelled their smell. The coach was moving like a leaf in the storm. Mama pulled out the sack. "Pepper!" she cried. I reached for a jar of red pepper and I gave a handful to everybody. The buffalo came closer and closer and closer. I could see their flashing eyes. Now, yelled Mama, and I shook the pepper right in the nose of the first buffalo. It made a huge sneeze, a huge snort, and the buffalo turned away from the coach, and all the others followed. They left our wagon standing still and safe. Days dragged on and on. Nothing changed. Nothing changed but the sky full of color. I waited for something to happen, and it did. Two men stepped out on the road in front of us, and they had masks on, and they had pistols out. Give us your gold and your silver and your jewelry, they said. Mama rounded her mouth and blew toward me. I reached in the sack. I took out Billy's whistle and I blew 3 piercing blasts on that whistle. Startled, the robbers turned and looked. The driver and the shotgun rider and Cowboy Charlie jumped on top of them. And with his lariat, Cowboy Charlie tied him up and left him by the tree. We climbed back on the coach. We rode for days and nights and nights and days and mountains and up and over more prairies and down again across the river in the endless dry desert. I hoped and I wished for something to happen, and it did. California, shouted the driver. California, shouted everyone, except for baby Betsy. She'd finally fallen asleep. California. I could hardly believe it. I was so happy. As the stagecoach stopped, 1 million people came to greet us, and one of them was my pa. He ran and hugged us all. He was so glad to see us. Then Pa asked, "How was the trip? Anything happen?" "Oh, nothing much," said Billy, Joe, Ted, and I. Mama only laughed. Pa brought out our luggage, including the sack, but he opened it up, and by now the sack was empty. He scratched his head, and he smiled, and he looked at Mama, and he said, "What a silly thing to do, woman, bring an empty sack all the way from Missouri to California. I'm glad you come here, my dear. You and the children need someone with good sense to take care of you." "Oh, yes," said my Mama, "we sure do." And she just smiled at all of us, and we giggled. Miss Camellia, the teacher, gave Mama her little perfume bottle. "I'll never forget you," she said. The 3 turned to Pa. "Nice family," said Mr. Hooper. "Good young'uns," said Cowboy Charlie. "Ladies and gentlemen," said Miss Camellia, "it was lovely riding with you." Billy, Joe, Ted, and I kept our faces straight. We didn't dare laugh. Mama folded up the sack, and we headed home. When we were settled, Mama and I stuffed the sack full of goose feathers and left it on our bed. And on wintry nights, we'd all lay there, pretending that we were on our way to California, rocking and swaying in the stagecoach, bound for home again. The end. Thank you very much for listening to this story. You might find a map. You might find Missouri on your map and locate Missouri and then California. Remember, it took 21 days to get there by stage. That's a very long time to be locked up all together. And yes, the things that did happen, although they were silly in the story, actually did happen to stagecoach riders. They were beset by buffalo. They were beset by people who robbed the stage, and weather was always a factor. Thank you for listening. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cat Tales. Today, I have one of my favorite stories to share with you. It is a folk tale. Now, folk tales, everyone, are tales that have been handed down and told mostly by word of mouth. Because in the early days when people didn't have books to read, they didn't have television, they didn't have social media, they didn't have anything they could do other than tell the stories. That's how they passed down information. Oftentimes, folk tales had a lesson that they wanted you to learn. So at the end of the story, think about what you think the story is trying to tell you. Folk tales often came from one particular country. I did try to find out where this tale was from. As far as I can tell, the earliest one probably came from England. There are many versions of the tale, and we'll talk about that when I'm done. But right now, I'm going to tell you the story about the little old lady in the vinegar bottle. Once upon a time, there was a little old lady who lived in a house that was very strange. It was tall and it was thin, and it had only 2 floors. The bottom floor had a kitchen and a living room area, and then the second floor had her bedroom. And because it was such a tall and thin house, it resembled a vinegar bottle. So everyone in the village called it the vinegar bottle house. Now, the little old woman who lived there was very, very happy. She had a very small garden that she tended. And then in the evening, she would sit in her rocking chair with her cat Mumsy on her lap or on the rug in front of her, and she would enjoy the warm fire. So one day, the little old woman decided to go down to the sea to catch a fish for their dinner, which of course she intended to share with Mumsy. So down to the sea they went, and she did indeed catch a fish. And it was the largest fish that she had ever seen. And she said, "Oh, Mumsy, we will enjoy eating this fish." And suddenly the fish said to her, "Oh, please, kind woman, do not eat me." Now, this was most unusual to have a fish speaking to her. And so she said, "Are you talking to me, kind fish?" "Oh, yes, dear woman." "Why should I not eat you?" said the little old woman. "I have no dinner." "Well," said the fish, "if you do not eat me, then I shall grant you a wish." "Oh, indeed," said the woman. "That does sound like a wonderful thing. A wish, you said. Well, since I cannot eat you, I will not have any dinner. So I believe my wish would be, I would like an elegant dinner." "Very well," said the fish. "I shall grant your wish." And with that, she tossed him back into the sea, and she and Mumsy went back to their vinegar bottle home. And there on her table was a very elegant meal. And they ate to their heart's content, even an apple tart in the end. And she sat in her rocker, and Mumsy laid on the fire, on the rug in front of the fire, and they had a wonderful evening. Oh, but the next day the little old woman got up, and all she had to show for it was an empty table. And so she said, "Mumsy, I do believe that I would like another elegant meal. Perhaps the fish would grant me another wish." And so back down to the edge of the sea they went, and she said, oh, little fish, where are you, little fish?" And the fish came up out of the water and said, "Yes, little fish, I was wondering if you, could you grant me another wish, please?" "Was that meal not elegant?" said the little fish. "Oh, indeed it was. Indeed it was, and I thank you very kindly. You are indeed a kind fish. But I was wondering if we couldn't have an elegant meal every night, for Mumsy and I have no other food." Said the fish. "Well, since you asked so politely, yes, it is so." And so back she went to her little vinegar bottle home, and that night And every night afterwards, she and Mumsy had an elegant meal. Now, that went on for several days, and she was quite happy, and she would sit there at night in her rocking chair and Mumsy by the fire. And finally she said, "You know, Mumsy, it was indeed an elegant meal, but this is not a very elegant house. I wonder if the fish would grant me another wish." And so back to the sea she went the next day. "Oh, little fish, little fish." And the fish came back up out of the water and said, "Yes, little fish, I've been thinking." "Indeed," said the little fish. "Did you not enjoy your elegant meals?" Oh, yes, I did," said the little old woman, "and I thank you very much for that. It was indeed elegant, but you see, I do not live in an elegant home, and such a meal deserves an elegant house." "Indeed," said the fish. "That is what you wish?" "Oh, yes," said the woman, it is what I wish." And so back she went, and in the place of her little vinegar bottle was now a very elegant mansion. And when the little old woman opened the doors, instead of her living room and her kitchen, there was a sumptuous dining room with crystal chandeliers and crystal glass in the windows and embroidered drapes hanging down. "Oh," said the woman, "now this is elegant." But in place of her lovely fireplace was now a marble fireplace of great size. And upstairs, instead of her cozy little bed, was now a gigantic bedroom with closets full of elegant clothes. And the little woman was quite content for a few days. And then she was thinking, but when she looked around, Mumsy was not there. For not having his comfortable fireplace, he had decided to take up residence in a shed outside. Thought the little woman. Well, no matter. I should think that I need something else. And so she walked down to the sea, and now she said, "Little fish, oh, little fish, where are you?" And the little fish rose up quietly out of the sea and looked at the woman and said, "Yes, little fish, yes, is your mansion not elegant enough?" Yes, it is indeed. But I have been thinking that since I have such an elegant mansion and I have such elegant clothes, and no one knows that, for I am in my home, I now believe I need a large coach and some footmen and coachmen to take me to town so that everyone can see how elegant I truly am, said the little old woman. And the fish thought for a moment and said, "Do you believe that shall make you happy?" "Oh, yes, of course," said the little old woman. And she went back to her home, and now in front of her mansion there was this lovely carriage with footmen and coachmen all dressed in a fancy livery. And so for a few days she rode around in the village with her elegant clothes and her elegant coach, waving to the people in the village. And each night she would go back to her home. And she would sit there and think about how elegant she truly was. But then a few days later she thought, I know what I need. I know what I wish for. And she went back down to the ocean, to the sea and to the ocean, and she said, "Oh, little fish, come here at once, please." And slowly the fish rose out. Only now the ocean had gotten a bit darker, and the sky a bit blacker, and the sun a bit dimmer. "Yes, little fish, I have been thinking that since I am so elegant, and my home is elegant, and everyone in the village knows how elegant I am, that I do believe I deserve to be the queen." "You do?" said the little fish. "Oh, indeed I do. I should be the queen." "Of course," said the little old woman. And the fish thought for a moment. Very well. Return to your home. And she did. And of course, in place of her mansion was now a gigantically impressive palace, more impressive than anything the little woman had ever seen. And there were servants at the door to open the door and bow to her. Long gone, of course, was Mumsy. Long gone was the rocking chair. Long gone was her little fire. And instead, there was cold marble and hard thrones. The woman sat there at night, and she noticed that her chair was not as comfy as her rocking chair, but still, she was now queen, which was the most important thing. Well, almost the most important thing. And as she sat there, noticing how hard and uncomfortable her chair was, she thought, I know what I should be. And the next day, she stormed back down to the seaside, and she yelled, Little fish, you must come here at once, said the woman. Only now the sea was churning and dark and frothing. The waves were crashing in the sand, and the sun was gone, and the clouds descended in anger. And the fish rose up out of the waves, and he looked down at her, larger than he had ever been before. And he said, What do you want? And the woman stared back, and she said, I need to be empress of the world. I see, said the fish. Old woman, when you came to me, you said thank you, and you said please, and you were grateful. But now you are angry and demanding and unhappy. What is it you truly wish? And the woman stopped, and she remembered how cold the marble floors were. And she remembered how uncomfortable the throne was. And she missed Mumsy, and she missed her fire, and she missed her chair. And she stopped. And the fish said, Go back to your home. And the old woman walked back, and it was all gone. And in the place of her large marble palace was now her little vinegar bottle home. And she opened the door, and there was her warm kitchen with a tea kettle on the stove and the fire in the hearth and her rocking chair. And she sat down, and as she did, Mumsy walked back in, licked his paws, and curled up on the rug in front of the hearth. And the little woman sat down, and she said, Thank you, little fish. Good night. Now, in that folk tale, think about what they're trying to tell you. Look up other folk tales, see if you can find other ones, and see if you can find other versions of this story. In some versions, it's a fairy that comes to the door. In other versions, it's a peddler. So there are many other ways to tell the story. Look it up and see what you can find. Wishes are also common elements in folk tales and fairy tales. So while you're sitting there at home, you might want to write your own story about wishes that come true. And remember, there's that old saying, be careful what you wish for. Goodbye. Hello again and welcome.